Going on? It's your boy Duff with Duffel Bag Bullies, and today we are discussing what I learned after spending $50,000 on American Bullies. And just to kind of give you a backdrop on what is this podcast, why am I what will we be talking about? What will we be discussing in this podcast? It is going to be geared towards those with limited to little to no knowledge about the American Bully. It will I'll be bringing on judges, I'll be bringing on handlers, I'll be trying to get vets to come on, just trying to give a platform for knowledge to the guys that are new to the breed, because I was one of those guys. And to be honest, a lot of the things that I kind of learned or picked up on over time, I wish there was a kind of like a platform that I could have kind of slowed down and or like beat that learning curve, you know what I mean, so to speak. That just wasn't present. There are some out there that I was watching and consuming, but again, I wanted to do something that's geared more towards the beginners, because like I said in the title, I had to spend 50 grand before I learned a lot of the things that I'm going to be sharing here on this channel. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing that you should do before you purchase an American Bully is do your research. Okay. Spend time. Sometimes I don't know whether it's going to take you a month. I don't know whether it's going to take you 6 months. I don't know whether it's going to take you a year, but whatever time it is, don't rush it. Truly take your time and do your research. Okay. You want to buy it from a reputable program, a reputable breeder, but you want to kind of know like what those dogs look like. What does that breeder produce? You know what I mean? Is he consistent in his breeding practices, or is he just going and putting two things together and hoping for a miracle, or so to speak? Or are they taking just the best or the top studs of the day that's hot at that time and breeding to sell puppies, essentially? And again, now don't get me wrong, you'll find some that will give you the game for sure. But then a lot of times you'll find that breeders are just trying to sell you a puppy. So they'll market and or they'll say different things, and there's nothing wrong with it. Again, it's their business, so they're trying to, sell you a product and or service. So I get it. But make sure that you are able to kind of have like some checks and balances on your own side, so that you can tell like, all right, is this person BSing me, or is what I'm purchasing actually what I'm looking for? Essentially. So rule number one, make sure you get plenty of video. If you can't go see the dog and pick your puppy out in person, please go and get some video. You know what I mean? Make sure never, ever, ever purchase puppies off of just a still picture, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because there are things that you might can't see that will develop over time. And all puppies are cute at 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks old, but eventually whenever those puppies turn into be like 6 months and later, you'll be like, oh, this looks nothing like what I initially thought that I was getting. Okay. So that's kind of like the step number one, because I made that mistake early on. Is I just trusted, hey, this guy, he's a big name breeder. He's had X, Y, and Z. So of course, if he tells me that the dog is going to be show quality, I'm going to trust that is the case. And that is not the case whatsoever. Okay. So make sure that you are doing your proper research. And if you can, take somebody that's been doing it. If you do have a friend that has American Bullies, or somebody that's been doing it a while, kind of like lean on them to say, hey, what do you think about this puppy, or what do you think about this dog? Because a lot of times, again, that can save you some time and money down the road. Number two is kind of like try to find a good mentor. You know what I mean? There are breeders out there that will mentor you, but a lot of times that mentoring is kind of tied to your purchasing of their one of their products. You know what I mean? So just look across the landscape. There are some very, very solid individuals in this industry, and individuals that kind of want to see you win. You know what I mean? But there's always like kind of like the old saying that, you know, it depends on the breeder and just how they're wired. Nobody wants to see you do better than them. You know what I mean? Go after the first and second picks, the top picks of the litter. You know, never like, and don't get me wrong, you'll find good dogs, and depending on how consistent the breed, the litter is, you'll find good dogs at pick 4 or 5 or 6. Nope, I'm not going to ever say that you can't. But try to go after the top picks. You know what I mean? If you need to spend that extra money, then do so. But you just, again, it goes back to step one, is making sure you're purchasing from the right breeding, from the right litter, from the right breeder, so to speak. Because that is going to determine a lot. Know the difference in show quality and just breeding quality dogs. You know, you'll be told that a dog is show quality, and essentially it's not going to be. You know, that's just another marketing tool. You know what I mean? Show quality dogs essentially should fetch a much higher price. You know what I mean? So yeah, just don't ever just kind of like take that word for it. A show dog is gonna eventually, you truly never know what a show dog is, especially not at 6 to 8 weeks. You won't know what a show dog is until much later down the road, when this dog has developed and or all the flaws have. Some people have different definitions. You know, some people say a show dog is a dog with only 2 minor flaws. Some say it's more than that. You'll see show dogs that win that, you know, are that exhibits multiple different flaws. No dog is perfect. You know what I mean? No dog is perfect. So don't think that you're going to get the perfect dog. But you also need to have a clear vision. Okay. That's another thing that I probably missed in step one, is have a vision. You know what I mean? Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. What do you want your dogs to be? What do you want your program to look like? Okay. I kind of fell into the trap of, all right, well, that person's program looks okay, or that breeding looks good. So, but I didn't truly, until maybe I was about 3 dogs in, say, okay, well, let me see what I want to do. You know what I mean? What I want to grow, what I want to build to. Me personally, I want to win in the show ring. I want to go up against the best of the best. I want to take my dog out there and I want to compete. I've always been a competitive person. So that's kind of the nature of what I want. But I also do know that I also need to have, you know, the bullier dogs, the more extreme dogs as well, because you have to have that perfect balance. You know what I mean? You'll never, and you can never get one without the other, because if you just solely breed to the show ring, yeah, you'll have, you know, show quality dogs, but overall, you know, you still are going to have to go to the extreme dogs to have the mass, to have the bone, to have, you know, X, Y, and Z. So that's why a lot of times people do have both. You know what I mean? So just truly know your vision, truly know what you're looking for, and then have that like tunnel vision type mentality. It's like, okay, I don't care what you're doing. I'm going to do it how I see it in my head. You know what I mean? Essentially, is what it is. So that's kind of the I guess the third step, so to speak. And then the fourth step is just, you know, the care of the dogs. And that, and to be honest, that probably should be step 1 or step 2. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people forget that. So that's why it's important for you to buy American Bullies from reputable breeders, but also like go a step further. Start doing genetic testing, which is embark, which I embark all my dogs. So any dogs that you ever purchase from duffel bag bullies will always be embarked and kind of like health and genetic tested. You know what I mean? And if something pops up in those health tested, I don't care if I've spent $20,000 on a dog. I'm just not gonna. And it's like something that is truly passed down to the next generation. I'm not gonna breed that dog in my program. I'll pet home the dog and I'll move on. And hey, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So just make sure that you understand that and that is like nothing of and sometimes that is out of the control of everybody involved. You can never truly know until you know. You know what I mean? And I don't like to keep saying that, you know what I mean, because you might not know what I mean, but never truly just take it like, all right, well, this person had to know, because a vet can look over dogs. They can check the hearts at an early age and check for murmurs and this, that, and the third. And something pops up later on in life that you truly couldn't even see. And it could be that it was via genetics. You know what I mean? It could be that it popped up just being environmental. You know what I mean? These are all things that I had to learn over time. Is the difference in environmental things that kind of contribute to the health of a dog versus genetics. And you can see the dog for what it is in front of you, the phenotype, but you might have some stuff going on in the genotype that you truly couldn't account for, and neither could the breeder account for. That's something that they didn't know as well. So knowing all those things and knowing what goes into it, you know what I mean? You might have a dog with super bad allergies. The dog might need to get on cytopoint injections. The dog might need medicated shampoos. You might have to feed a dog raw, or you can feed it kibble, but you might need to, you might have to, prepare the dog's meal yourself. You know what I mean? There's so many factors, but again, health of the dog is key. You know what I mean? The care and the health of the dog, both mentally and physically, is a real thing that I feel like it's not, it kind of gets thrown to the wayside. You know what I mean? But always put the dog first, remember to love your dog. Remember to love your animal, to love on them first, and kind of teach them and have them, because American Bullies are companion breeds. These are not working dogs. Some of them they have super high drive, so they will work for you. And the reason why they'll work for you is because they want to please their owner. Okay. But if I can say this, I can say that this is the ultimate house and kind of like family dog, so to speak. I raised my dogs around my kids as puppies, and they truly, it's a beautiful thing to see that kind of that relationship that they have. They don't require they don't require a lot, you know what I mean, that others may, and they're just super, super chill. These dogs are I don't think I can name another breed and or another dog, excuse me, that is kind of like this. You know what I mean? They're super unique. People love their bully features, their headpiece, their mask. I can go to Home Depot with my dogs and people will stop me and say either what kind of dog is that, or like just giving me compliments like, dude, that's a nice dog. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like and I feel like that's probably why the breed is kind of like so popular, is that fact. You know what I mean? Is that these dogs just look different. You know what I mean? They move different. They're built different than other breeds. So make sure that you kind of know that about the breed before you purchase it. You know what I mean? Before you get into it. But I would say if I can go back and do it again, I will. You know what I mean? I'll buy more. I plan on producing these dogs, and I want to make sure my program is producing the highest of quality, and or we're kind of geared towards the show ring. We're going to produce towards producing dogs that can get in there and that can perform, and that you can that can grow and you can win with. But I do know that we will be breeding we will be breeding to the standard essentially. I'm gonna chase the standard. I'm gonna if whatever the standard is set at, that's where I'm going. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna deviate from it. I'm not gonna kind of like throw things to the wayside, because I do like a well put together dog. I'll never forget. I kind of got into it with a couple breeders because they were like, "Hey, man, you're new, so you don't really." But then because I was pointing out different things to them about dogs that I had purchased, and they were like, "Yeah, they were trying to just kind of like shun me away, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about." But mind you, I've been in dogs. You know what I mean? I haven't been in American Bullies, but I've had dogs all my life. I know what a well put together dog looks like. I can walk into any show ring. It doesn't matter if I go into an AKC show. I know what the dog looks like. I know what a winning dog looks like. You know what I mean? I have an eye for that type of stuff. So I would run across dogs. I never forget whenever I saw the national winning dog from last year, Jack, at nationals. No, I saw him at Michiana. I actually flew up because I had to come and do a business meeting, and I flew up and I saw the dog, and I just was like, it was a wow factor moment. But after that show, I messaged a friend of mine that's a breeder, and I said, man, I saw this dog Jack, and this dog was insane. And then fast forward, a couple months went by, and the dog ended up winning nationals. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not going to brag. The dog is the dog. I didn't produce the dog, but I saw what the dog was. I saw what that looked like. You know what I mean? And I knew that dog was a very, very nice dog. And lo and behold, the judge picked him to win nationals that year. And there's been others that I have saw that I was just like, you know what? I like that dog is put together correctly. You know what I mean? It looks correct to me. You know what I mean? And so don't fall into the trap that, hey, you haven't seen enough, you don't know enough dogs, so you don't know what a nice dog looks like, or you don't know what it's supposed to look like. No matter what somebody tells you, still trust that you can properly assess what a dog looks like. Okay? But I know I've been just rambling, but essentially back to the title, how I come about, kind of like what I learned and after spending $50,000. And again, I learned that do your research. I'm going to just go back quickly and briefly. Do your research. Make sure that you invest in the right dog. The most expensive dog I purchased was $20,000. Okay. And I would do it again at the blink of an eye, because you truly need the top tier of the top. You can go in and go at it, and you can buy, a dog for $1,500 as a pet. You know what I mean? You can do that if you don't have any aspirations to breed the dog or show the dog, and but you just have to understand what you're purchasing. But when you want the top tier and you want to set yourself away, I think set yourself apart from the rest of the others in the fray, then you're gonna need to foot that bill. The top females in the game, most of them, they never come available. But the ones that do, they are very, very expensive, especially if you're trying to build a program. In my mind, I didn't have 3 or 4 years to, kind of start at the bottom and then, breed a couple generations and then eventually get there. You know what I mean? I wanted to go ahead and kind of start ahead of the curve, so to speak. You know what I mean? So again, never would have thought. And a lot of people was like, man, you are crazy for doing that. You know what I mean? But then I kind of like realized what that came from, what they were kind of meaning by that. Another dog that I have, I spent $12,000 on it. He was the second pick of the litter. And I wanted to, again, I didn't want to come into it and try to like spend 3, 4, 5 years, waiting for, to kind of do that. I knew I'm gonna already do that over time. You know what I mean? I'm just now getting ready to embark as far as like producing litters. I should have 2 or 3 litters this year. So I will continue. So that is the goal. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take what I have and I'm gonna get better over time. Okay, but I just knew that I couldn't start, in the back of the line, so to speak. You know what I mean? I'm just not that type of person. So, but by all means, if you can't spend, you can only spend what you can afford. You know what I mean? If you can't afford to do that, then don't do it. You know what I mean? By all means necessary, start with what your budget is. You know what I mean? If you only have a budget of 1,500, then start with a budget of 1,500. But just know that that's not going to be breeding quality dog, or it's not going to be. You're going to have to spend anywhere from 3,500. I would say the sweet spot is between 3,500 and 10K. That is gonna be the kind of like the stock that you want to invest in if you are going to go down this road to be a breeder. Now again, just having a pet is a whole different ball game. So I'm trying to gear this towards breeding, but we will have like just kind of like pet care kind of episodes and so on and so forth. So we still have content for you guys coming up, but this message is more so for the guys that are getting into the breeding aspect of it. So that's kind of your benchmark where you're gonna want to spend money on. But again, go see the dogs in person. Never just trust somebody's word, especially when you're spending that type of money. Okay. I actually, before I purchased a dog, I flew to Indiana. I went and had a conversation. Then I actually went up and took a look at the dog long before I actually got the dog. Well, my most expensive dog, but it came from a person that was truly that I had trust in, I had faith in, because I had seen what he had produced, and he's one of the best at it in the game, and he's actually going to be on an episode in the future. So you guys should be able to get a lot of game from him once I have him on, because I'm gonna ask him the tough questions. So I actually had faith in him. So I took a leap of faith because in the same token, I purchased a dog for $6,500 from another, pretty big breeder. I'm not gonna say his name. Not a fan of him anymore just because of how he handles business. But I essentially got the dog, and I saw like so many flaws, and I said, well, this is essentially a pet quality dog. You're not going to sell it to me for $6,500. And the person felt some type of way, but I didn't care. You know what I mean? I'm not a yes man. Don't ever be a yes man. If it's something that you feel like you don't like or you don't care for, or if it's something that you feel like you were sold something under false pretenses and it wasn't what you actually thought you were getting when you got it in your hands, then don't be afraid to voice up. You know what I mean? Some people just are cool with, not kind of like, I guess they don't want to burn a bridge, or they feel like this person is above reproach when they're not. You know what I mean? So I kindly loaded the dog up and drove the dog back to the person, you know what I mean, and essentially said, hey, this isn't gonna work, you know what I mean. And then I got so many excuses on why we missed it, why they missed this, or why they truly didn't know this or that, that they weren't aware that the dog was what it was, and so you're gonna run into that, you know what I mean. And essentially, again, it's called paying freight. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have, without going through those things, I wouldn't have been able to then make the move that I made to go and get the better dogs, and or to go and to improve my yard, to improve my stock, because I then was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna go down this route and I got to deal with these issues, why trust? You got to go to the person that you can actually kind of like build a relationship with and build trust with, because I actually had to go and sit down and kind of make sure that my views kind of matched up with uh, my partner's views. You know what I mean? And that kind of, it was the kind of like the aha moment of, okay, these conversations need to be had on the front end. You know what I mean? Especially when you're partnering with somebody on a dog. Y'all have to be lock and step on the vision and what that looks like going forward. You know what I mean? Because that's where it gets tricky if you don't. You know what I mean? So much bad business going on, so many like horror stories you'll hear, but don't kind of like play that into, don't bring that into kind of your thought processes, because everybody's situation is different. You know what I mean? But just again, make sure you trust yourself. Don't be like I said, don't be a yes man, and stand on your own too. You know what I mean? Make your moves, and make your moves with conviction, because you kind of like, again, go back to, you had a vision. You know what I mean? So again, these things, I'm trying to prevent you guys from making these huge mistakes. If you don't like truly understand how it works, or if you don't, if you have so many questions even after doing your research, I can be of a asset. I don't know it all. I never will claim to, but I've been through a few things. And like I said, it's cost me $50,000 to get to this point where I have, and this was, now I'm 3 years later, 2.5, 3 years later. I think I purchased my first American Bully maybe two and some change ago, almost 3 years ago. I think it's 2 years. So I've kind of learned, you know what I mean? I've just, after that, I've kind of sat back and I did even more research. So I've literally been just watching everybody's program and watching watching as a fan, so to speak. I actually went to nationals without a dog. I just went to just take it in. You know what I mean? I wanted to see what it looks like, what it's supposed to look like. What did the best of the best look like? Who has the best of the best? You know what I mean? So anybody can tell you anything, but if they're not out there actually putting in the work, if they're not actually out there winning in the show ring, and not all dogs are show dogs. Some programs are not designed to go in the show ring. But if that's what you aspire to do, and that's what you aspire to be, then you need to go to the shows. You need to go and see the shows. You need to go see how they handle these dogs. Online is different, but when you go and see it in person, that's a whole different ball game. So make sure, again, you are, and I actually spent money. You're going to spend money doing that. And you're gonna keep spending money. You know what I mean? Before you ever get the money back or start seeing the return, you're gonna have to keep spending money. You're gonna have to keep dumping money into it, and that's with anything. A wise person once said that sometimes you might have to invest for 5 years before you ever get a return, before you ever have to see some money start coming back in. So don't think it's a get rich quick scheme. You know what I mean? It's not. Some people get into it for that and for the love of them, or trying to make a quick flip, and then they fall by the wayside. Get in it for the long haul. Invest in the right stock. Invest in the right dogs, both monetarily, but also invest in your dog as far as time and care in your dog, and eventually you'll get out of it what you put in. You know what I mean? That's with anything. So that's kind of like my lasting thoughts in this is just, again, take your time. Don't rush it. Don't think you just need to jump into it, because I kind of rushed my first couple purchases. You know what I mean? And I kind of regret doing that because I didn't truly do enough research. And then once I sat back, maybe a year, I did research for maybe another year or so. And then that's kind of where I got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I need to go and purchase a dog from him. I'm tired of spinning my tires, so to speak. I need to go purchase dogs from these breeders, because they have what I think I need or what I'm lacking, and their program is what I aspire to mirror my program after, essentially. So don't get frustrated, but please do get into American Bullies. If you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, go ahead and get off the fence. Come on and get them. Come on over the fence, so to speak, because they are, like I said, they are the perfect companion breed dogs. Okay, they are absolutely 1000% worth the actual the purchase. You know what I mean? Essentially. So with that being said, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this information.